European LCS, if you saw a lot of the pictures that our fans have sent in with the hashtag LCS. Trevor there with a selfie. Whose selfie game is more on point, yours or Trevor's?
Please.
Please. Well, it's the European LCS we're talking about here, and the race in the playoffs, of course, to get to the finals here in the quarterfinal between H2k and Giants. And it's been brought to match point already by H2k. Game 3 is just moments away. Let's look at the matchup so far, starting with the game we just saw. Another extremely convincing game by H2k. Let's get the picks and bans up on stage, on the screen, rather, again, to refresh our memory.
So yeah, different approach for Giants. Game 1, absolutely no crowd control or engage whatsoever. Maybe a little bit of peel. So this time they take a different swing and they say, okay, we're going to go for full-on skirmish. You know, Vayne, Braum, okay, Victor is still a control mage, Gragas and Shannon all looks nice on paper, but you still have to play the game right. And it kind of went downhill. It doesn't even matter what H2k pick at this point because they're just playing the game smarter. We can take the graphic down and just start talking about the early game, the lane swap.
Right, and I like the adaptations, but as you said, it's all on the execution. That lane swap that came out, we were kind of looking at this 2v2 setup between the Sivir, the Alistar, the Vayne and Braum, and as you alluded to, lane swap comes out. H2k, they, you know, it ends up in that top lane kill. There's still playing us out on this one. It's
yeah, they want to give you tunes to give your analysis here. Stress,
liven
but yeah,
up the show.
TLDR. Lane swaps, you do try to do the 3-man defense against the 4-man siege that's coming out. Lately it's become a 3-man, but there's still always the 4th man around to combat that. Giants actually did this against H2k the first time they faced off. I believe it was week 2. Didn't work. Tried it again, ended up giving up first blood. Shen went down and Oduwabna picked it up, I believe, and then he immediately teleported down, soaked up that half the wave that was remaining on the tower, and that in a normal strategic match should be game over already. Fell behind, lost more ground, eventually tried a couple of skirmishes, got some kills, but it was clear that Giants were outmatched by H2k, so what is next? Yeah,
what is next? To take a closer look at maybe one of the moments that snowballed it again in that Game 2 replay of a skirmish that H2k initiated at the end. Well, it could have been something in there for Giants who actually initiated this one, but they didn't play it out correctly.
Yes, this was right after the Kasing double pulverized to catch 2, and this is Giants, as Deficio was talking about. Why would he be diving an Alistar at this point? It's just so very messy and very headless when it comes to decision making.
Yeah, what preluded this play was an attempt of a pickoff by Giants. So they tried to find an opening with that Vayne and the Braum combo, slow somebody down. But Godfrey didn't even use his exhaust. The exhaust goes through. Sivir's shield could have slowed Sivir down. Maybe they could have gotten a pick, but because they didn't quite get it off, they were chasing a loss. They was like, okay, we didn't get it out. We have to keep going. There's no other way. We just screwed up, so let's keep going. Let's keep diving. And they ended up diving an Alistar. And it seems like they're a little bit tilted right now. And if you look at how it's going on H2k side, everybody played that perfectly. Kasing is tanking, Lulik's mechanics were on point, you know, kick, follow-up, Q, follow-up. Everything was played crisp and clean there in that dive, and it just shows H2k is much more comfortable on the stage right now than Giants.
Yeah, H2k is way ahead of the race in this one. One thing for Giants, though, at least they didn't just let it go when they started getting behind. They built in a little pause. It didn't take very long, and then tried to skirmish. At least they had crowd control on all their champions now, and there was an adaptation. It just drives me to wonder, in this series, it might just be that the individual skill is just too high from the Shadow of H2k.
Perhaps a little bit, but H2k getting away with a lot of things in these games when it comes to, you know, H2k aren't playing perfectly. Sometimes they're a little bit caught out of position, going for Baron when they're quite low. Giants just aren't able to capitalize on it, whether it's, you know, from their warding not being too good or pushing too deep to try and get deep wards when, quite frankly, they can't. Giants just aren't reading H2k's mistakes at the right time, and H2k aren't getting punished.
We'll see if they'll be able to read them a little bit more as we go into the next game. First, though, earlier we asked which role you thought would have the biggest impact on the playoffs, and it's Jackie writes, I think the coaches will have a massive impact on the playoffs because of the extra preparation time and the multiple games in a series. Extra preparation time for sure, but indeed that coach on stage in between series being to, well, talk you up a little bit and get you out of maybe a hole when you're tilted.
Yeah, obviously coaches becoming more and more important over time right now, and compared to last year, compared to 2 years before, just the role they serve within a team and an organization has gone up. And I'm just really eager to see how much that changes for playoffs later on, for Worlds, and how these coaches are going to, you know, renew pick and bans, you know, read enemy teams, find patterns and exploit that. So far, we don't really see any strategic depth because H2k's basic level play is just already ahead of the Giants, but maybe as we progress in the tournament, we might see some interesting reads, especially picks and bans.
Picks and bans and maybe mid-series substitutions. Now that we're talking about coaches, and H2k has actually elected to be making a mid-series substitution, placing Betongjaka in place of Lulex for Game 3. Super interesting all around. Quite excited about this, to see a team doing this. And you actually know Betongjaka very well from the Challenger Series.
Yes, he was playing on Denial for the first 3 weeks and a couple of games here and there later for the Challenger Series. Betongjaka is a jungler that, come the summer split, the beginning of it, nobody in competitive play really had seen him performing. He was from solo queue. A lot of highly rated solo queue players in Challenger regarded him as a fairly strong jungler. Came onto the scene with Denial, started looking pretty good, but the one thing we never really saw was how he could play with you know, a team that had a lot of time to practice when it comes to with a coach, macro level strategy at the highest level, because his time on Denial, a lot of it was to do with how the team was split pushing. He played Gragas, Rek'Sai, Lee Sin, so fairly standard. I don't think in Challenger we saw enough of what Betongjaka has to offer. Maybe we'll see that from his time with H2k now.
But we always have to put this in perspective. This does not mean that Lulex is out, Betongjaka is in. I really think we need to lose the notion that teams are only 5 players and a coach, and if you look over at Korea, even Faker gets substituted sometimes. So that doesn't mean Faker's out and Easy Hoon is in 100% suddenly. And I really like that H2k is making this adaptation. I would like to see more teams at least consider it. Bring subs to the venue. You know, maybe one of your players starts playing a little worse. Maybe you're so far up in a series that you can comfortably make this decision to put in a fresh player that hasn't played on this stage, completely new, straight into a playoff game. But because they're 2-0 up, because their macro level play is ahead, because their shot caller is still in the game, they can now test out a new member, and they just have more variables to play with should they go into the semifinal and eventually into Worlds.
Yeah, I applaud it. Definitely just the use of bringing those different players in there and the different flavor. We'll see what it brings to Game 3, which could be match point for H2k. And we're going to revisit, well, some of the things that we've been watching beforehand, starting with our featured matchup in the top lane, Werlib versus Odoamne. Odoamne, well, he's gotten rolling, but his whole team has.
Right, his whole team has. And to be honest, when you look over at the Giants side, their stats have just not been impressive at all in the last 2 games. First game didn't even pick up a kill. And you can see, while the stats aren't too huge on their own, we're looking at 2 games from this sample size from this very series. And Werlib, he's been behind, as we've seen from previous games when it comes to kills. Odoamne's been up in kills as standard, but you look at the last game, there was a massive CS difference because of the early game and how it affected Werlib's ability on that Shen to actually get farm. And if that happens again, this is going to be a 3-0.
I mean, we're looking at both games, the lane swap initiated or happened. Let's just say lane swap happened. H2k came out ahead. Odoamne came out ahead both times in CS lead. The time it takes for Werlib to catch on, Odoamne is doing different things, pressuring the map, pressuring H2k, pressuring in Giants rather, and giving that vision that H2k plays so well with.
Yeah, super interesting in that one. And also with the new jungler coming in on the side of H2k, yes, you could say maybe it will be tricky in terms of the communication of him. When is he coming top lane to gank? But on the other side, Frederick probably has no idea. Of course, we have no idea how much they've been scrimming against each other with this lineup, but it's also a new factor thrown in there for Giants to deal with.
Right, but one thing that we do know on H2k's side, this substitution or the potential one has kind of been looming. He got added to their roster a few weeks back, and we know they've been scrimming with him. So I expect H2k at this point to actually be somewhat settled. Those, you know, what is he going to do around the map? I expect the macro level play to actually be not too far off what has been going on with Lulex, especially in the last couple of weeks.
Well, we will see what happens. The teams are set on stage, so we're going to head it over to the casters and take us into Game 3.
Thank you very much, Shucks, and the rest of the analyst desk. Remember to stick around after our best of 5, because it could end here, because we'll be sending it over to North America for their very first playoff matchup between Team Impulse and Team Dignitas. A lot of people favoring Team Impulse in that matchup.
I think that's fair.
Let's talk about it after this matchup.
Sure.
Betongjaka, red side for H2k. It's the first time that H2k are on the red side. Giants, how do they adjust their pick and ban? You think maybe they can try first pick Thresh? Mate, is that even going to be enough? Because I don't
That's the
think
problem.
so.
That's the problem. Is yes, you would take it away from Kasing, but I don't think Godfred is going to have the same impact we've seen Kasing have on Thresh. It's obviously more than just a champion. Kasing has been playing fantastic on Alistar as well in the last game. Multiple knockups on 3-4 members. Yep. So yes, it is an option for Giants. The concern is just as a team, as we said in the start of Game 1, they don't often tend to have specific champions that they have to get as a first pick. You know, even Rise wasn't that big of a deal for Giants before. They are even banning away the Thresh. Sivir first pick is going to be my guess then for Adri, after seeing also how H2k used it in the last game. And then, if I'm Giants here, I'm going all in. I'm going to say, you know, I want Sivir.
TP Diana mid.
Not TP Diana mid, but I want a composition that can dive onto H2k. And if they want to play these mid-game fights, Diana could work. There's no TP. If they want to take these early to mid-game fights, we're going to try and match them. Standard lanes. We don't want to lane swap anymore. It doesn't work for us. Just match them on the top side if that is. Go and try and pick an all-in composition. It seems to be the only option almost for Giants.
So, new jungler in means Elise does not get banned from H2k, and they're on red side as well, but they have taken away Azir.
They can get it now.
It is Sivir first pick. So, Batong Yoka, coming from solo queue, played for Denial, was actually substituted for Kirai in recent weeks. What will he be running and will they lock it in this rotation?
Well, if he gets Elise, you couldn't really ask for more. First game here on the big stage. H2k is up 2-0. I saw some people questioning, why would you swap a guy in? You're up 2-0, you know, it's playoff. Well, the thing is here, more and more teams, again in Korea and China and so on, are using substitutes really well. Because again, it gives you another dimension on your team, more players. There's more than 5 players that can work well together, and it gives you more options. So I think this is smart. You're up 2-0. You have honestly had 0 problems so far. I don't think swapping in a new jungler is going to make your entire team collapse.
And especially true when it's been H2k's lanes that have basically won the game for them in both previous matches. Giants are 0-9 against H2k historically. Their 10th defeat could send them to the regional qualifier as the 6th seed. Remember, even if Giants lose right now, they have one more shot to make Worlds if they can run the entire table and take out everybody in the regional qualifier. But that is a big ask for a team that is struggling to handle even relatively basic lane swap decisions at this stage in the competitive scene. They lock in Evelyn and Braum. Some flanking opportunities.
But just look at the whole setup here for H2k again. They're saying, we're going to leave Elise and Sivir open. We know you want the Sivir pick. So if you take it, well, we take what is considered the tier 1 jungler, the best jungler right now. And we get the best support available as well because of the fact that Thresh Morgana has been banned away in this particular matchup here. So they're basically just getting everything they want because now, down the bottom lane, you can do a Corki into Sivir. At level 6, you're more than fine on the Corki. You can do Tristana into Sivir. Good matchup for the Tristana. Once we can start getting that BF sword, and as long as they're Sivir, I mean, okay, farm matchup against the Tristana because you can spell shield the bomb, but that is not a problem for Tristana itself. So it is super tricky for Giants, and how are they suddenly going to win the lanes with Sivir? That's one of the reasons she's being played less. If you look at someone a region like Korea, first of all, they do lanes up different. Yeah. So like you don't have Sivir, like they have freezing lanes with the AD carry. Sivir is not that great in that one in terms of the one-on-one against top laner. Second as well, there's a lot of these lane matchups where she's just simply not winning her lane anymore, or she tends to fall behind that lane once she hits 6, 7, and so on. And that's why people are playing her less and less, or one of the reasons. There's obviously different ones. But yeah, there's the Tristana for H2k. Basically somewhat the same setup, a mix, I guess, of the 2 games we've seen.
A mixture of the 2. What does Ryu run in the mid lane to round out H2k's team composition? There's a lot of damage coming out from H2k. There's split pushing options. There's even some team fighting options.
You can just go Ahri if you want to. You have fantastic dive set up.
Full pick comp, basically.
You had their Alistar Fizz, who were fantastic at diving before. Now you add in Elise, probably the best jungler. Again, you can reset the tower aggro by repelling up into the air. You have that fantastic pick potential with your Cocoon, the burst, single target burst coming. H2k, by going Ahri here, will just have that perfect pick set up to set up these tower dives again and again. Twisted Fate could stop the dives from happening, but then H2k is going to do exactly what they did in the last game. Let's not go for the high-risk situation of having to dive for a few kills. Let's walk into the jungle instead. Play around the vision control. Make it a low risk when we create picks, when we take team fights, when we take towers. You can do exactly the same here. Almost no matter what mid lane pick to lock in, just with the first 4 picks.
Well, that Twisted Fate will be the first time that we've seen Pepinero on that champion in summer. and he's going to need to have a phenomenal performance. Much like we talked about the first Shen Stand United and how impactful it has to be to get whichever lane he's TPing to ahead. The first Destiny from TF is often so crucial because of the opportunity cost, because of you can lose. And we will be seeing our first Karthus in playoffs.
So, Karthus, we have to remember, benefits a lot from some of the new item changes that happened 1 or 2 patches ago. Rylai's, as an example, 40% slow. Absolutely fantastic for the Karthus. At the same time, when you play against a severe composition, you know they're going to aim to run at you. Well, if you're a Karthus, you want people to run at you. You're like, come to me, please. And this setup here from Giants runs extreme low amount of engage again. It's all basically focused around flank from the Evelynn, flank from the Trundle with the pillar, and then Sivir popping ulti to get the rest of the team in there with them. But again, you're gonna run into the open arms of big teddy bear Rio, who wants to hug you in this team fight.
Hug you with Defile switched on and a wall of pain behind you. Deficio, first Karthus of summer.
Love it. Love me some Karthus. It's about time. After the changes with these items here, man, come on, it was meant to be. Karthus needs to be a thing.
The last time I remember somebody speaking so passionately about a Karthus was Froggen, about a year ago at
I think it's a Danish thing, you know.
It could be
You
a Danish
convinced me.
thing. It could be. We'll need to see how Ryu can perform, because if he's going to play as well as he has in the 2 previous games, this could be a clean sweep 3-0. H2k are fighting for a shot at the semi-finals and Origin, and Giants, they just want to stay in the playoffs. Giants need to reverse sweep a team they have not beaten in the last 12 months. The flags are lit as we load onto the Summersra for Game 3 in this best of 5.
Let's see what build Rio wants to aim for here. I would assume seeing again with the Rylai's being strong, with also Tier, once you get it fully stacked, gives extra AP in the late game, really benefits the Karthus. We can see just the Tier Rylai's build, which makes you even fairly strong once we start hitting the mid game. Obviously the goal here for H2k is the fact that you want Ryu to sit and be this farm machine in the mid lane. And you have then his ulti to tip the scale of the side lanes even further in your advantage. Betongyake, my friend, you're in your first game.
Well, it is his first game on the LCS stage, and he's going to be able to get away. Ghost used from Peppy. No summoners on the side of H2k. Giants unable to secure a kill on the Spider.
So again,
is that enough? Is that enough pressure on Betongyake early? Probably not, because he's still got his summoners.
hey, he stayed alive. He didn't. He's kind of walked out.
We will find out how he performs on the next episode of Gank Your Lane.
Which lane is he gonna gank?
We don't know.
I'm gonna say top lane. I would be more than happy to go gank this Trundle here with my Fizz as well. Then again though, when it comes to standard lanes, we've seen H2k swap. Finally though, Giants realize this is gonna happen and they counter it. So they go top lane, they take the 2v2 lane. Remember, Braum into Alistar is a good lane for the Braum here. At the same time, Sivir in the early stages, you can have some very effective trades, or you can just basically try and shove the wave in. Allow the Evelynn then to play more the invading game. Obviously though, if you're on Evelynn, you find an Elise, you gotta think twice, because her early damage is insane, but Evelynn very often is about getting that first jump for herself, because she does have decent burst damage with the E, obviously getting that double hit. So if you have a pushing lane in the top, at least, that might enable the Evelynn to invade in. We're also going to get one-on-one the bottom side, though.
Eventually. As it stands, the top laners holding hands of the respective junglers. Red buff being cleared as Frederick and Werlip started on the Krugs, moving their way out to where their duo currently is. H2k on the other side, moving their way up top. So, Adowame's TPing bottom, Werlip doing the same, and there's our 1v1.
Surprisingly enough, game 1, when we saw the Trundle pick, Werlip took the red buff, even though they saw it was a lane swap, and he never got to use it because, again, it was a lane swap. He walked down and killed the tower, and then his red buff disappeared. Now he knew it was going to be a standard lane, so I wonder why they don't give him that red buff again, if it was, of course, the plan, because these early trades, especially also with a red buff from a Trundle, can be super difficult for the Fizz. You normally want to get a few levels under your belt before you really want to start going aggressive, if you are Odo Omni, in this case. They gave it over to Frederick though, so let's see what he can use the red buff 4. At the moment, top lane is going to be very even between the two guys, but they might be shoved in. So that's not a ganking option. Twisted Fate as well in the mid lane is going to early push with the red card. At least from the start, but Ryu can easily shove it back. You are casters after all.
Frederick's got several games played on this Evelyn. Pretty good win ratio as well, 75%. And he's going to spot Petong Yoka. Not really going to be able to do much about it though. Equal levels, and Petong's got a lot more HP. So Frederick's just going to chill. He doesn't really know what he wants to do for the time being.
Well, he got vision at least. Saw the recall. Potentially a gank in mid lane if you land a gold card from Pepinero. Ryu is very close to his own tower though. Might just be able to force a flash.
Flash and exhaust on Ryu's Karthus, so any all-ins that happen can be made slightly less effective. 26 CS to Pepe's 19. Early advantage to Ryu in the lane waste. Frederick is still hanging around this mid lane, been here for at least 25 seconds. There's no real opportunity for gank unless Pepe tries to force it. Flash is available, as is Ghost. Gold card's primed. Flash away, and they trade Ghost for Flash.
Just saw Pepinero allowed the lane to start pushing back. He didn't keep clearing the minions for himself. He didn't want to trade with red card in the middle of them with Ryu as well. So, while Frederick used a lot of time, he got the flash for himself, but also H2k knows he went down towards the bottom side again, so they can communicate to Odo Amnet. There's a chance he's going to be in the bot lane. So now Odo Amnet just needs to be a bit careful. Should be able to jump out though in case Frederick pumps out. But again, look at the wave pushing down. So Frederick is using the minion wave to try and find ganks. Petong Yoka though is nearby. Pink ward play. So H2k are reading the situation really well. Saying again, there's a chance of him on the bottom side. Be careful. Have your jungler nearby. If the 2v2 breaks out, at least damage is going to be insane.
Frederick really wants something to happen. Oduwama's going to have the support of Petong. I think he stepped into minion vision definitely now. And that means Lulix is going to start backing away. So time investment and theoretical possibilities for Lulix not paying off. We should have a look at that top lane because we still see Adri and Godfred pushing the wave into Hyanan and Kasing. They're even on CS. It seems to be evening out at the moment. We've not watched it too closely.
Exactly what we talked about though. How, yeah, the Sivir wants to try and shove the wave in early, which could enable an invade, especially if Pepinero could shove mid lane at the same time. Frederick was looking for the ganks instead though. But Tristana is more than fine turning that into a farm lane. You don't have to try and go for any trades if you can block your bomb anyway with Spell Shield. Now, might be able to do something here. Problem is Frederick sneaks behind Odo Amnet, so he gives Odo Amnet an escape. Because he's basically telling Odo Amnet, you can Q through me and walk out. So whenever you gank a Fizz, don't sneak in behind him. Because then he just Qs away from you.
Disappointed dad Deficio telling you how it is. But it's true. And we finally see Frederick backing off. Gonna pick himself up that Skirmisher's Saber. As we pokerize up top, 47 CS to 48. Both 80 carries getting to that cusp of the BF swords rather. Adri not afraid to just keep spamming those ricochets out.
But it's a sustain lane.
Farm lane.
Yeah, it's just turned into a farm lane. Nothing else. Pepinero once he hits level 6 though. Once he trades a bit of damage on Petong Yoka, no help on nearby.
Cocoon connects though. Remember that stun timer went up on this patch. Pepinero forced to flash away defensively.
Yeah, we need to see what Petong Yoka wants to max second. Because now that with the fact that Cocoon is 1.6 seconds at rank 1, you don't have to max it anymore. You can max W second. That's what I've seen at least in solo queue, which obviously gives you a lot of extra damage because of that longer duration on your Cocoon in the early stages. But I want to see what Pepinero is going to focus that first gank. You would expect it to be the bottom lane. Try and snowball Whirlip so he can become a split pushing threat. Then Pepinero can always take over the other lane if they want to play the 1-3-1 setup and get away from this Karthus. Don't try and 5-5 team fight on the Karthus.
Deficio, you can never get away from Requiem, which is on Ryu at the moment. Level 7, we did see Odo One teleport down to the bottom lane. Whirlip is yet to back, currently sitting on around 1,000 gold. So for the time being, Whirlip's got a small amount of pressure advantage, but has not converted that farm gold into any combat stats. So Odo will be able to try burst him down. Pepe respecting the power of the Wall of Pain.
Oh yeah, just use your flash, for sure. But Ryu here is not going for the tier Rylai's build I was hoping for. Instead he's going to go Rod of Ages still. Late game, yes, it does give you a bit of extra AP, so in terms of the late game scaling, But if you go Rod of Ages Rylai's, I feel like you are delaying some of your core items. Again, stacking a mass amount of AP is so effective on the Karthus. So like, you don't want to delay your death cap for too long. If you want to play again there, I don't even want to play the defense. You don't even need an hourglass here if you are Ryu. Just go full damage. I mean, again, people are going to be fighting on you. So let's see how long he does. If he just goes Rod of Ages, Death Cap, Void Staff as an option, or what he decides to do later.
The way Ryu's been performing lately, and the way Giants have not really been able to pressure him, why not just go full damage?
Sure.
So keep in mind, Werlip still yet to back, so sitting on a lot of money. Frederick does have Agony's Embrace available. And he's got the support of Godfred. There is a Requiem up. Odoamne is going to just play full Trickster away. And
you have no lockdown.
Yep.
You have a slow from the Braum and then potentially a knock-up, I guess, if he does manage to connect his ulti, but then Odoamne really needs to be sleeping. You got the pillar, you got the slow coming in from Evelyn as well, so you have no ways of stunning the Fizz. So you can just always jump away. You need the Twisted Fate to join in. So if you
Twisted Fates?
If you invest 2 guys on the bottom side,
Ryu, is he going to get stunned? Frederick has been exhausted. Agony's Embrace comes out late, will give a little bit of a shield. Ryu's still alive. Kasing and Batong Yoko were close enough to get involved there, and the fight plays out. Requiem is up and available. Odoamne has gone all in on Werlib. It's going to go play full Trickster. First blood secured for Werlib, but it will be a Requiem. No! The damage over time plus Ignite means kill credit to Odoamne with an assist on that Requiem.
Really nice flash though from Odoamne. He flashed out of the damage from the Trickster. Managed to win the one-on-one. Obviously, again, Karthus came in. But that gank before here, I would like to see Giants do the same, but then add in the Twisted Fate. If you want to do that, because one kill, when you have a Trundle as well, can very easily transition into a tower. You can take down these towers super fast with Trundle and Twisted Fate in the side lanes. That's also what we're going to see later on, by the way. The fast pushing of a Sivir and Twisted Fate, and then the tower damage. Remember, Trundle can Q the towers. So, Giants needs to know how many resources they have to use to get a kill. Otherwise, you're just wasting time on multiple guys if you go bot without any hard CC against Odoamne.
Talking about time, the average time to secure your first tower. Stark difference between these two teams. A lot of that can, of course, stem from the lane swaps. The fact that Giants is traditionally not in them. And in this game, the first non-lane swap of our series, no tower fall in 11 minutes. So playing a little bit more into Giants' comfort zone. And we'll see whether or not H2k can beat Giants when Giants are comfortable. Batong Yoko will be able to land a very easy cocoon as Werlib face checks. Chamber Waters is not available for a few more seconds. It may not even be needed. Playful Trickster will secure the kill, but look how much damage Werlib's already putting out.
Yeah, I mean, this Trundle here, again, in the one-on-ones, he's going to go for Hydras. He's probably going to go for Play the Ruined King. It is extremely strong. The problem is, again, Giants are not investing the right resources into him. Pepinero, remember, he used ulti in the mid lane before, even though he spotted 2 or 3 guys coming down to help Ryu. So that was, once again, effectively a wasted cooldown. So first you had 3 guys trying to gank Fizz in the bottom lane. That was never going to work. Then you waste your Twisted Fate ulti in the mid lane, instead of having it here to assist him and turn this one around. It's all these small things that has gone against Giants, where they just haven't been as effective as H2k in this series here. In this game, they could have most likely snowballed this Trundle already.
In this game, Werlib is now ahead in CS against Odoamne's Fizz. Previous game, Werlib was playing Shen and got heavily put behind. It's going to be a little while longer before Odoamne is strong enough to start trading. And there's that tower pressure. 12.5 minutes. A little quicker than Giants' average. And it's global gold to Giants. They hold the gold lead thanks to that objective. Pepe's going to keep chasing, but it's optimistic at best. They did get Ryu's flash once more.
Yeah. But been quite a while between the last gank. Oh, well, the first game we saw from Frederick and now this one. So yeah, flash was ready again. But this Trundle, I'm not even sure if Odoamne is going to reach a point where he feels like he really wants to one-on-one Werlib. With the fact that he's also, what we normally see in Fizz is like Trinity Force, then you start building tanky from there. Obviously that goes in favor of Werlib with the fact he's going to steal away so many of those stats. We need to see that once Karthus ulti really starts becoming powerful, it will obviously switch the fight quite a lot around in terms of who can take each other down. But then Pepinero has to be able to join in. Whirlip has been such a good player for you if he gets a good start on a split push. Use it, snowball him. There's no blue buff, my friend.
Repel up from Batong Yaka. There's nowhere to go, and he is down. Pepinero gets the kill with the destiny involved. I can hear Giants screaming on stage. And in the third game, the last life opportunity for Giants, they maintain a minor level of control.
This really is the best start we've seen Giants have against H2k. I'm not only talking the 2 games we've seen today, I'm also talking the 2 games we've seen in the summer split between these teams. They've always been really far behind in the mid game, but now, small goal lead. Top lane tower though taking a lot of damage from this one, and Yarnan can keep doing it. Now he has that BF sword for himself, so you can start shoving in the waves, you can start taking down towers. But the Trundle is the man to watch for me on the side of Giants. If Odoamne can never touch him, Giants will always have that pressure, and it's not exactly like H2k is running a whole lot of engagement their side to force fights while the Trundle is split pushing.
Now, Kasing's going to try zone away Adri and Godfred. Tower secured for H2k, so that will give H2k a minor gold lead. As a quick update for anybody that's trying to follow any of the other regional tournaments happening at the moment, Deficio Productions just informed me that Besiktas, I believe it was, won 3-1 in the Turkish finals.
Double Doge!
Here we go. We'll see how they perform. Whirlip, the man that Deficio wants to watch, flashes in. He's already 1v1'd Odoamne, but he will go down to reuse Karthus. If there's any champion you really don't want to feed, it's going to be Karthus. Guaranteed damage thanks to that Death Defied passive.
Well, the thing is, Whirlip keeps getting fights and he keeps winning them on his own. But then H2k is just better at sending down guys to stop him. Or like at least return a kill. Now he was obviously overextending himself, considering the fact that rest of Giants were back in base. But it's still, for him, the fact he keeps getting these kills means he's gonna get that Blade Leader and King a lot faster. And once you have that,
yeah.
I mean, you kill waves so fast with Hydra, you get to towers, you destroy them in a few seconds. As long as the rest of Giants can avoid the engage coming from H2k, again we mentioned how there's no hard engage. Do maybe want to take it back a little bit in the case we're probably going to get Righteous Glory Alistar or the Talisman and then the wall from Karthus. That can be enough for H2k to start fights. But it needs a lot of setup where Giants with this Trundle here can just destroy towers.
So Adri once again finds himself between multiple members of H2k. Even behind his own tower, he will be going down. Yarnan gets the kill. Whirlip has teleported in. Here comes Pepinero as well. The Requiem is being channeled, and it won't be enough for a kill. Whirlip is trying to put the pillar down. He finds himself Batong Yaka once more. Now Kasing's trying to escape. Gold card pulled. It will hold Kasing in place as the Buster Shot pushes Pepinero away. H2k get themselves a 1-for-2 trade and a tower. And Frederick, he's going to get a big shield from Agony's Embrace, but it's not enough. That was a terrible flank with no support. Prolly is smiling for days as H2k are extending their gold lead. Kill credit to Odoamne. And apologies to viewers following the Turkish scene. I got it wrong. It was Dark Passage that beat Besiktas. Dumble Doge, not victorious to Fischer.
Well, no Dumble Doge hype then. Rydell, though, former Giants support, is on Dark Passage, so congratulations to him and the team beating Besiktas. Our game, though, congratulations to H2k and getting 4 kills down the bottom lane, I believe it was. Giants came down with TPs, everything. Pepinero joined in. But with the Karthus ulti and the fact that they'd already gotten that first kill on Adri, it was a fight in favor of H2k. And then Frederick, in the very end, goes in, realizes he was caught between 3 members and had nothing to do there. H2k, despite Giants having a better start, we see one of these mistakes coming in and then quickly H2k punished him.
Not for the first time this series. Adri being focused by H2k. That particular time was a dive from H2k. They caught him between 2 towers. That meant that H2k accelerated ahead. Giants will at least reply. Fan vote swinging heavily now in favor of the team that's 2-0 for fairly obvious reasons. But will Whirlip be able to pull enough pressure? Will Whirlip be able to play the split push game effectively enough? We talked a lot about styles and growth and history to Fischer, and Whirlip, when he was playing Jax, would try to split push and not always make it work. I'll ask you to reply on that in a moment as Oduwamne is going to get caught out, but Pillar of Ice will prevent his escape, and kill credit should go to Werlib. Chomped for his 4th kill of the game.
Smart little trap to set up here with the pink one on the side of Giants. The rest of H2k were just expecting to kind of reset the map and go to each lane and sit and farm them out. So clearly not expecting it. Pipanero though getting jumped. Obviously Kalthus ult is ready inside of Rio, so Yanin can play a bit aggressive, but that's the thing with Werlib. He's always doing a fantastic job getting fed on his own, but then sometimes we have seen where Giants should have been split pushing. They have opted to go team fighting instead. We're talking mainly about Jax here, but it hasn't paid off. But this game, he's also itemizing the MR against the Fizz for some of the damage coming in, and he's just going to be such a beast.
Werlib is going to be able to get the tower. Destiny's being channeled for Pipanero to come into the middle lane, but he may take more damage than he wants. But Songyaka is going to get caught by a lot of skill shots. Repel unable to prevent that damage. Giants, they're digging deep, and they're keeping themselves in this 3rd game. At 20 minutes, they are not down their traditional 2,000 gold. And that's not something we say very often.
And we need to get that Righteous Lord before we really start seeing the engages. Pipanero though,
he's going to be forced to ghost. Flash comes out of Ryu. No flash for Pipanero.
No.
No layaway. So Peppy survives the all-in from Ryu at the cost of ghost.
And H2k really want to look for the big team fights. But in order to get these fights here, they either got to start setting up complete vision control around certain objectives, Baron or the Dragon. Dragon is not alive, so they're already switching up towards the top side with the Baron. Remember, Kalthus can destroy it.
No.
Fizz as well. Elise as well.
Wow.
You have an insane team at taking down Barons. Look at the HP. We're 20 minutes in, guys, by the way. Werlib is coming, though.
Werlib. Flash has available. Baron's down to 1,520 seconds. It's secured. H2k have got it, but how many will they lose? Ryu's down. He's going to start channeling the Requiem. It cannot be avoided. H2k stay in the pit. They've picked up a kill onto Godfred. Frederick is trying to rampage across. The hate spikes are not enough. It is a 2 for 3 and Baron to H2k.
20 minutes in with Kalthus, Elise, Fizz. The damage is insane on a single target. We see Giants, though, they very quickly realize it's going on, but it's just too late for him to move in. There's no reaction from Pipanero. He's stuck in base with no ulti, so it's a tricky situation for Giants and cannot do enough to stop it. So H2k, despite not being able to respond to the split push, they keep finding small openings, either through a tower dive or now through... Literally just said it. They need to start looking at some of these objectives with vision control, instantly go Baron.
H2k secure the earliest Baron of summer. Around 20 minutes, 20 seconds. It had literally just spawned. Subscribing a little bit to Fnatic's style of early Dragon play. They did lose a couple of members in the trade, though. But with the gold lead they've built up and the pushing power, it may help. Godfred and Werlib, they're looking for the 2-man.
Giants need to be careful they don't invest too many members here, because you have Baron buff on H2k's side. The wave clear becomes a lot less effective on the side of Giants against it, and at the same time, sacrificing 1 kill in a lane where there's no outer turret to take down. If H2k can then break in towards the base of Giants, that would have been more than fine for them. So Godfred wisely enough recalls. Let Werlib handle himself up in that top lane, but there's no TP for him. So H2k can play super aggressive, and they should, because they can always get a 5 vs 4.
Crucially, AD carry and top laner maintain that Baron buff. And Oduwamne and Hyanin have not grouped up. Destiny comes middle. Insta-teleport from Oduwamne, keeping that minion alive. Flash pulverize, or rather just the headbutt pulverize, doesn't connect.
Why would Pipanero go in, though? You had no TP on your Trundle. Super risky play. Bot tower just died, so you knew H2k were in your jungle. Has to flash out now, and he is
Tower dive coming in from H2k. Kasing has put down the unbreakable will. Pipanero is out without that flash or that Destiny no vision. Hyanin may get taken down from Audrey. Audrey's alive on the back line, but it's Fredericks that's got the double kill. Requiem's being channeled. He's going to get 1 with the Defile and no more with the Requiem. I take it back as 1 more lay waste will correct that. 3 for 3. Audrey stays alive, and Giants are still 2,000 gold down at 23 minutes. That will be shrinking with another tower kill.
Yeah, these towers, again, they go down so fast. They might be able to take another one. Werlib will destroy it. H2k, they got the Righteous Glory. We talked about how they needed that to start these fights here. Instant dive? Oh, Pachanga, I don't think you want this trade.
Definitely doesn't. Werlib and Adri will focus the objective. And they'll keep things even. Despite the poor start to that fight, Giants come away looking okay.
I want to see if Kesing headbutted himself out of the tower aggro and it switched over to someone else on the side of H2k. Also, Yanin jumped in very aggressively and was suddenly caught behind the tower. And it just felt like H2k overcommitted to that one and didn't realize the amount of damage coming in from Giants. It was very clear, being like, okay, Pepinero just wasted flash. He's going to be our target. Go straight for him, kill him, clean up the fight. But there's still the troll here standing around, who's a beast.
Cutlass has been picked up for Werlib to go with his Spirit Visage and the Hydra. Teleport will be available very shortly for Werlib. And Pepinero's got that Destiny up. Death cap for both mid laners. I want to see where this Blasting Wand goes for Ryu, but Pepinero, wow, he's jumped in and he's taken so much damage. He's dead before Ryu can get killed, and Ryu stays alive. That did not go the way Pepe and Giants wanted it to.
We've seen some very, very greedy teleports from Pepinero. Again, he gets full vision. He sees Elise is nearby and still believes they can take the fight. Really getting punished for it. Ryu is a man, he's gone full damage. No Hourglass, and then what we were talking about with this Rod of Age's first death cap as well.
Manly League of Legends with Ryu's Cutlass.
Now he can go Rylai's if he wants to.
You're obsessing on Rylai's officially.
Dude, it's so good on Karthus. Land 1 Q and the guy's slowed for 40%. I mean, how's he ever gonna escape?
Well, Ryu doesn't need it yet. 6, 2, and 5. Helps that he has been gifted a few kills here and there. But for H2k, they are down 1 tower in the mid game. But considering their power, they can now take more. Werlib is down. Finds himself caught out by 3 members of H2k. He had the support of Godfred and may have felt more comfortable than he should have. Chum the Waters is going to connect on Godfred, and Odoam is trying to chase out Adri. Godfred falls. Everybody from Giants are falling. 3 members down. H2k give themselves a 6,000 gold lead in a few minutes. They take an inner turret, and now they're on the inhibitor turret too.
It took 1 item and some levels on Ryu to stop Giants from really setting up effective swift pushes, because now with Righteous Glory and that wall from Karthus, you have enough engage on the side of H2k. Also, because Giants are overextending in the lane, so there's always that chance to start the fight. This time there was no tower in the way. They clean up a few more kills for themselves, and we simply haven't seen the synergy between a Twisted Fate and your swift pushing Trundle that can be so deadly to stop any counterplay from H2k. It's not been there.
So Hyanin trying to get away. Frederick is chasing from the jungle. Buster Shot keeps Hyanin alive for a few more seconds. Rocket Jump over the wall. We saw a teleport from Werlib into the jungle as well. And it did not pay off. 25,000 damage has been dealt by Ryu this game already. Double anybody else in his team.
I like
really putting H2k in their semi-final hopes in his backpack.
Ryu's the
There
kind
is,
of guy.
hey, wait, there's a Rylai's. There's a Rylai's to fish
Oh, I know.
When Ryu builds one, we'll talk about him more, but Frederick's got Rylai's on Hate Spike. Perma-slow.
It's very good on Evelyn. Especially because you are going to be building around these flanks. The problem still with the Evelyn pick is that what are you really going to do in the fight? Because again, you're going to walk into this Karthus here, and your job is obviously to constantly try and CC slow down people with these flanks coming in. Checking.
The pillar comes down. Vision is up there from Destiny. All of H2k are grouped, and Godfred, he's going to throw out the Fisher before he runs away. Shutdown kill onto Ryu, but he's in the middle of the jungle. Frederick and Werlib, they're trying to do what they can, but Frederick's down, Werlib's down. 3 for 2. Adri follows suit. Pepe and Godfred.
Even trade.
The last one alive. That's right. Ryu death defied. Finally takes him off the map. Even trade will at least stall the game, which is not a bad thing. But you're feeding H2k more kills and gold too.
Well, same for Giants though. 3 kills when you are behind. You take that fight very often. No objectives were taken. Let's see what happens. Godfred takes all the damage in the start. Flank coming in. We just talked about it from Frederick. Odoamne gets single out. Doesn't manage to take down a target. That's again why they trade even. And also whenever Werlib is going crazy in there, he's taking 1 or 2 guys down with him.
Got his Blade of the Rune King. Got his Merc trades. Ryu didn't actually use Requiem that fight, so that will be up for the next time. Giants try the Death Bush. Ryu's got a needlessly large rod.
It's gonna be the Hourglass. It's okay too. It's fine. There's still one more item to go. The thing is, okay, you also have the massive wall. And if people are already in a composition that is gonna run at you, you technically don't need to start to for more damage, but it's very good if you want to start cutting around Trundle. I mean, Trundle is one of these champions who obviously doesn't have any, gap closes. He's gonna run at you. If you start slowing him down, it can become harder for Whirlip. It can become harder for the Evelyn as well. It's the same deal. Inconsistently dealing damage, and obviously what you want to do if you're Ryu. Yes, you want to be the big damage dealer, but you also want to peel a bit for Yanan on this Tristana. So like the late game for H2k, these 5-on-5s, is scary just looking at the 2 carries.
Godfred and the rest of Giants may be a little caught out. Whirlip decides to engage. He's being exhausted. Here comes Pepe into the middle of the fight. He gets a gold card down before flashing out. Ryu's in the middle of the lane, channeling that Requiem. They've traded 1-for-1 so far, and again, another dramatic fight. Frederick is going to get the reset to run away. It ends up being a 3-for-2, but H2k have got more carries alive. Jungle and support. H2k have got Super Minion pushing down.
Yeah, there's no wave clear at all. There's the Tristana. H2k are looking for these Nexus turrets now. Another messy fight, as you just said, but it's just 2 teams smacking the heads against each other over and over.
Chum the Waters is on Freddy, and Freddy's going to jump away. Not going to be enough. Kasing gets the headbutt pulverized. The laser's burning down the cow, but Hyanan's going to take out the Nexus turret. He's got one, turns his attention to another. Super Minions are in the base. The Nexus is going down, and Giants will not be alive quickly enough. H2k will be sending Giants to the regional qualifier and will be advancing to face Origin in the semi-finals. Well, that was a hell of a convincing series from H2k.
Yeah.
Despite Game 3 being messier.
Game 3, though, was a game where Giants had a lot of options.
Yeah.
And I really don't feel like they used any of them. Whirlip was so strong, but not a single time did they manage to plan a gank or a counter gank for him. So instead of him going into these situations where he's like 1v2, 1v3, and he goes 1-for-1, add in a Twisted Fate, add in an Evelyn who's reading the situation properly, and that becomes a 2, maybe a 3-0 in favor of Giants because that Trundle was so strong on his own. But we always saw the ganks and the Twisted Fate so uncoordinated. 2 guys goes down for the gank when Twisted Fate has no ulti. Okay, then Twisted Fate gets the ulti, uses it mid lane in a gank that was never gonna work. Now it's on cooldown for the next fight Trundle has in the bottom lane and there's no help. There were just so many things they could have done.
Yeah.
Didn't manage to use any of them, and then we just got these big 5-on-5 team fights, and we seriously talked about how Karthus is just gonna sit there and be like, please run at me. Over and over. Yanan died once because all the focus was on killing Ryu, who then still could deal damage. And that's why in the end, even though there were some close fights, it felt like H2k, as long as that cooldown's ready, would always come out at least 1 champion ahead. And that was enough once you had the base open.
And the 2 previous games, H2k didn't even need any of those dramatic circumstances.
No, this was the close one because it was standard lanes.
The only game that was close in the series, H2k clean sweep Giants 3-0. So they will be advancing into what will be an actual former Challenger Series showdown with Origin. Origin in the semis, H2k, see if they can cause an upset in that one. What we also know, is Giants now will be dropping into that 5th, 6th seed in the regional qualifier. So there is one more shot for them to make Worlds. But so much has to change between now and then, which happens the week after Stockholm, by the way.
And also just the format real quick for it is, again, the 2 lowest in terms of championship points will face each other first. Best out of 5. Winner will then take on the next in the standings, who will then take on the next guy in the standings.
Yes.
So obviously, if you have the highest amount of championship points in the regionals, you sit on the top, and you only have to play 1 best out of 5. Now, Giants will start at the bottom.
Tough scenario for them, but for a team who it wasn't tough, winning the entire series in an average game time of 29 minutes and 30 seconds, we're going to head to Pulse to talk to H2k after that clean sweep.
Thanks, Trevor. I'm joined by Kasing and Odawame after their victory, that crushing victory, honestly. You're now 10-0 over the Giants after all of your encounters. You played a pretty simple game, and people were criticizing you, maybe that you've lost your strategic edge coming into playoffs, but you guys have definitely shut up all of that. So what did you change coming into playoffs?
Well, we kind of like came out of our slump, as people saw, like in our last 3 weeks of LCS, we kind of lost like 4 games and 1-2 only. And it's not like, to be honest, we were playing pretty bad, to be honest, and we kind of just picked up the slack with this kind of break for 1 week where we pretty much tryharded the entire time. And even though it's like Giants, I'm looking forward to play against Origin, who I think, even though we played against, like we lost to them 2-0 in normal split, but I feel like we could maybe win now. So yeah.
Okay, and also coming into playoffs, how was the team mentality? Because you said you were in a bit of a slump, and playoffs were encroaching, obviously very high-pressure situation. How was that for you particularly, Kasing?
Well, for me, like, if I'm ever stressed out or if I just feel like I'm doing really bad, then either I play more or I try out more. I tend to look at more stuff about the game rather than just like relaxing and stuff. Because I feel like if I need to step up, then I feel, well, this is just for myself, but hopefully everyone else like steps up as well.
Well, did you feel the same pressures, Odawame? Because Kasing just mentioned how he went into playoffs. Did you feel any of the mental pressures, or was it just all clean sailing for you?
Well, not really. We were all just kind of stressed out because we were in a big slump, so we weren't performing, so we really needed to pick it up. So we tried really hard in our scrims because until that point we were doing really bad. So it was a bit of a pressure because we need to perform because we did so good in the split, and then the past 2 weeks we just like played really bad and we just started losing. So it was just like on us that we wanted to bounce back to our original shape.
Okay, so coming into this matchup, you guys started the series 2-0, super strong, and then you decided to swap in Betong Yaka, a player we've seen in the Challengers series. Now, Kasing, for you, how was that adapting and having this new player come into that lineup?
Well, it gives us gives Ludex a bit more pressure to actually try hard sometimes. But I think it's good because Betong, he's never really played on stage before, and today was like the first time, well, his debut game. And I did see some missed flashies on the list, but it's fine. Like everyone, like kind of doesn't play the greatest in their first game. So yeah, hopefully it'll get better.
So Odawame, how was that from your perspective as a top laner? Did you feel like you had less pressure in terms of counter ganks, or did you feel that he offered just as much as Ludex?
Well, it was different because the first 2 games we played with Lulex, so I kind of adapted to what he wants to do. So I was just playing around Lulex, and when we changed in our third game, it was kind of different because he had a different mindset than Lulex. So I just had to try to adapt in game and try to just play as safe as possible and just let him do what he wants. If he wants to come to my lane, then we're just going to set it up. But if not, then it's fine.
Well, it was a very strong victory, 3 games in a row, 3-0. Now, looking forwards to Origin now, you guys didn't have the best of performances against them before. Have you guys looked a lot towards Origin in particular in that matchup and how you're going to face them?
Well, even in our losses, like sometimes it was kind of like both teams could have won, and then Origin came out ahead from it. And well, I just feel like having a best of 5 kind of shows us, yeah, who is actually the better team, or who actually can play a better, one style that you can play in one game. And I think when we play against them next, it'll be an interesting game.
Oh, interesting indeed. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Congratulations on your victory. We're going to shoot it over to the analyst desk to take a look at that game.
Thank you so much, Pulsa. Well, I want to, of course, immediately jump on Betong Joka that was in that game and who may not have super impressed, but I love how Kasing a little cheekily said, well, you know, maybe it will cause Lulex to try hard a little more here and there. I mean, maybe there's a ground of truth in that.
It's a bit of a strange comment, actually, in the interview, considering Lulex tweeted out earlier, time to give Betong Yoke some stage experience. So give, different verbiage used, maybe, you know.
I just have to say, I agree so much with H2k as an organization and a team in using a sub now. You're 2-0 already. And yeah, sure, it's going to be more pressure. Also, Lulex can be the bigger man and say we're 2-0. I've done my job. Now, Betong Yoga can get the credit and win the last game.
I definitely agree with Deficio here. Yeah, once you introduce, these subs in these environments, same like for casting, for example, Deficio carried the Spring Split as a color caster, but now he has a sub too. I think overall we can agree that the quality increase, but on top, no, I think.
Oh no, I think fair.
I think.
I'm sure
I think,
Reddit agrees.
I'm sure they do. Yeah, not really.
At least the selfie game increased anyway.
Selfie game definitely increased. No, but I think it's the right move to make, and we see like Betongnok. I don't think he played the matchup to the full potential. I don't think he played perfect, but it's a good first step. And if there's ever a moment to go in, it's when you're 2-0 in a best of 5 against a team that you are at that point 8-0 or 9-0 ahead in competitive record at the time.
With Betongnok at 10-0 now, H2k have beaten Giants. I think not only we can make the jokes about substitution, I think it actually makes the team need to learn, first of all. H2k have been a team that have not necessarily been the greatest at adapting very rapidly. And now you've got a new player, and that's going to help encourage that. Lulix also has to step up because there's now real threat of replacement. But Songyaka wants to be on the stage, so it's going to encourage some, inter-team rivalry and competition. What this also does, in my opinion, is it adds an extra layer of threat to any team they face going forward, because now you also need to consider what could Betongnok pull out? What are they scrimming with him that they're not doing with Lulix? Maybe they don't play him again, but the threat is there to play him.
Yeah, we will continue that in just a second, because I do hear that Pulse is on stage to talk to Prolly about that game.
Thanks very much, Afia. I'm just sat down here, actually not sat down today, we're actually stood up talking about this game. And I was talking to you just before we went live about kind of the stresses coming into this week and how you're preparing with the team. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, this split was really weird for us because we had a lot of pitfalls in terms of results, but it didn't really reflect how we did in scrims. Like a lot of the strategies we pulled out in scrims, we weren't able to put into LCS. So it put a lot of stress because we didn't really know which kind of H2k would show up on game day. So prior to this, we kind of were in a slump. So coming into Giants, it was we do have a good track record against them, but this was still a scary point that, yeah, maybe we just do everything the opposite we do in scrims. And not to mention we lost 90% of scrims this week. So there was a lot of stress coming in and out. But after all, it's done. Now we're just happy and ready to go to Swedeland.
Well, there was a lot of stress going before the games, but between the games, did you have to say anything to your team, or was it just great job, keep on going, do what you're doing?
No, that's kind of the funny thing with how which H2k is going to show up is after game 1 I was watching, I was like, oh, I don't have to do any work anymore. They're actually playing really good. I can trust them to do this. They don't really show both sides of the dice. They're normally either Jekyll or Hyde. So they actually pulled out the right one this time. So after first game, it was kind of what did we do really well and how did they actually react to our plays? And a few of the plays that we did, they didn't really have an answer to. So I just kind of told them to repeat that and abuse that fact with them. And I don't know, post game was really, really easy and really smooth. And I think all the games were pretty good.
Yeah, they were super good. And after 2 of those games, you actually decided to sub in Betongnok. I wanted to ask you about this. I asked the other guys on your team how it was from a player perspective. But as a coach, why did you decide to put him in the 3rd game, and especially in playoffs as he's just out of the Challenger Series?
Yeah, it was a bit risky in a sense because it was his very first LAN. But backstage watching with him, I could tell he's getting hyped just watching the games. So I knew a lot of those butterflies were kind of out because he already felt like a part of the team. We've been scrimming with him, and we're pretty close with him. So putting him in really wasn't too big of a change for us. I know from the outside it probably looks like a big risk or maybe even disrespect, I heard on Twitter. But it actually wasn't a big problem, and it's kind of just how we fit with different people and how the team changes with different junglers. So it was really nice we were able to kind of experiment with that because a lot of teams aren't able to use their subs. So I was really happy we could do that.
Yeah, it was definitely cool to see him be on the big stage here. So now looking forwards over to Origin, you'll be facing them next. Last time you played them, didn't go so well. Have you prepared against them? Do you think there's anything you're going to change up this time you face them?
I don't think we need to do anything really different against Origin. It's mostly kind of defeating ourselves, I think was our problem against Origin. The very first game in the split that we played against them, we were underprepared for them. And in the second game, I think we actually had a really good plan against them, and then we just didn't execute it right. Kind of the wrong H2k showed up that day. So I really think it's going to be how hard I can be in practices to kind of grind them into being the right H2k that will win.
Right, well, best of luck on that matchup, Prolly. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. We're going to shoot it over to the analyst desk once again to talk about the game.
Thank you so much, Pulse and Prolly. Well, a lot to think about there about what Prolly said. First, though, let's recap what happened in the last game to kind of wrap up these series. I would say I expect a lot more different maybe coming out from Giants, but it was H2k that came out with all the different things in the series, even the Karthus for Ryu with the new jungler in there. How do you think they did in that last game in the adaptation?
I mean, Karthus pick, it's a bit like subbing in a new player again. You sometimes want to try out different things. Again, you're 2-0. You've won the 2 other games so easily. And I quite like the pick in the setup here because of the composition that was being run on the side of Giants, which was very focused on having to run at you. Again, it's not jumping. It's not really hard engaged. It's not Civi ulti run in with flanks. My concern was just, I feel like if Giants had coordinated properly with the Trundle in the side waves, there wouldn't have been a whole lot they could do against it until they got to the Righteous Glory. They were allowed to get to the point where Righteous Glory completed on Alistar, so you had Wall from Karthus and Righteous Glory to engage fights, and they weren't too far behind because the coordination from Giants were completely off.
I do like the Karthus pickup separated just into the TF in the mid lane, because you can really punish every time he locks a card. You're out of his range almost, you know, with the lay waste, and you can zone him, deny him some CS, and then when he ports to another lane, you can't physically follow him, but you can start channeling Requiem, and you can at least help and maybe go 1-for-1. What did surprise me was how much damage top lane Trundle does in those duels. You know, even 1v2. At one point, Betongyok just panic flashed out in the bot lane. So definitely props to Whirlib. And I feel if we could have had this Whirlib and then a good Pepinero this game, it could have gone differently, because I was
Giants would have won, in my opinion.
Not really impressed with what Pepinero was doing in the mid lane on that TF.
It's pretty difficult, and you could see even when Frederick came to try and assist him in the early game, he was just sat there. So, yeah, I mean, what do you do in that situation? You've got a Karthus that's outranging the TF, just playing on the boundaries of where he can get ganked. We saw the flash burn, but from there, there's not too much that you can do. Honestly, though, I think in this matchup, we talked about the substitution, how it affected. I don't feel like the jungle had that big of an effect from H2k's side in this third game that Betongyok had to do anything other than just throw out the cocoon and set up the fights.
I agree, but that was the story of the entire series.
Right.
I mean, Lulex could have not played games 1 and 2, and the results may have been the same. Lulex did a lot of time babysitting Odowame's Fizz in game 2, which was great, and made sure that he didn't get punished in any way. But Giants couldn't punish him. I actually want to circle back to what you mentioned, Crepo, about Frederick, because Pepinero, because I don't think we saw Pepinero at his best. I mean, Pepinero has shone all summer split long. Even in losing games, he stepped up, he's put a lot of damage down. He appeared to be a threat. I was not afraid of Frederick. Damn it, I was not afraid of Pepinero at all in this best of 3. And I think a lot of that has to do with Ryu. Ryu did such a good job in the laning phase, always came out ahead regardless of the matchup.
I want to say, yes, it was Ryu showing up in playoffs, but also it's a meta change for Pepinero. He did not log in the poke champions we have seen from him before, where his job was basically just sit back and farm, relax, and our team will make sure we get to a mid-game point and you can start having an impact on the poke champions. He played Victor 2 of the games because it was a blind pick. Anyway, that's smart. Victor is fantastic because you can blind pick him in that case. That was smart to get the last pick for Whirlib. Problem was, he lost lane on Victor. That's not supposed to happen, especially not in some of the matchups we saw. And then at the same time, when he picked the Twist of Fate, as you guys have highlighted, the coordination with his team completely gone. Yeah. Extremely risky TPs in, where it's like his top lane has no TP, he goes for 4v5 team fight, and it's like, he didn't show up. He's going to look back at this series and say that he was probably a big reason they didn't win.
Yeah, it's also a big wake-up call because we were wondering what would happen with the meta shift for the teams, and we have a couple of teams still to play tomorrow as well who are very reliant on that meta, on that poke, and those picks coming in there. So quite interesting to see that Giants at least didn't adapt. And Crepo, there was one more thing you wanted to highlight about Game 3, because you've been looking at the bot lane all 3 games, and this time finally standard lanes.
Yeah, standard lanes happen. And I just want to highlight one replay that we had from the game that we can get on your screen right now, and I think it kind of like sums up what happened in this game. And this is Audrey. He's getting caught, and while it may look like, hey, Audrey's getting caught again, just look at the minimap. Godfred is too late, Teleport is too late. Giants are not reading the map. These plays, they don't come out of nowhere, you know. Somehow, you know, if you play enough League, you can start predicting these things. And H2k is a team that does that actually fantastically. You know, there's some minor outplays here, and that's all mechanics. But when it comes to just broad, wide map play, H2k is a step ahead, and Giants just really dropped the ball. And then we shouldn't be talking too much in, you know, this player didn't step up or this player failed this. For me, as a whole, Giants as a team were just so far behind.
And this is a very good example, but in game 2 of the series as well, I distinctly remember Deficio highlighting one of the vision-based plays where H2k had all the tools to tower dive, but they just threatened the dive. It
Before
pushed
you
Giants
finish,
away.
I just want to highlight, and then you have Ryu in the mid lane, just taking that tower. That was like quite comical for
But
me.
yeah, but that's the whole point. Low risk, high reward. H2K play the map, they plan ahead. Like you said, Crepo, you know, looking 2 minutes ahead, looking 3 minutes ahead, deciding your actions. In game 2, H2K threatened a tower dive. It forced Giants into the jungle. They found some H2K members. They saw Oduwamne in the mid lane and went, we don't want none of this. They backed away, and they lost the bottom tower uncontested. All the vision was set up for a following dragon. H2K are thinking 2 steps ahead, just something that you've talked about during the split.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, so we just highlight, or you highlight how you don't feel like it's too much.
We're
you
a
and
team
me,
here.
we are the same. How you're talking about it's not really the individual performance too much, it's like strategic. I agree, especially when it comes to lane swap. However, a lot of the reasons H2K were allowed to set up the vision they were and allowed to make the plays was because of individual misplays coming from Giants. Adri dying in the lane against Jan and getting caught out, and then it gives the mid tower, which transitioned into, the bot tower into a mid tower. The misplays from Pepinero on the Twisted Fate. So misplays combined with a team who's very good at seeing the openings makes for these one-sided games where we can see such a big gap in the strategic aspect.
Looking ahead though, when they have to face Origin, the way these games played out, I don't feel if H2K plays like with Betongyok as they did that game, I think but there was a distinct lack of deep vision against Evelyn. They got lucky that Frederick wasn't playing Evelyn to the full potential. He was hovering the wrong lanes at the wrong times. He was approaching from the wrong side. I mean, he tried to gank a Fizz from behind and gave a free Urchin Strike through himself and then got out. So he wasted all his time. Betongyok invaded the jungle twice, didn't drop a single green ward on the camps to attack the Evelyn. So in that sense, in purely strategic play, H2K, they looked strong today, but I feel it's partly because Giants look weak.
Yep.
So I really I just wonder, you know, how strong will Origin be after their, you know, training facilities that they've had right now. Okay, they were at Gamescom. You know, so that picture from Niels where he's like, hey. But at the same time, a little break for them might be good.
3 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
They had so much time to practice, so it will be definitely a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, glad you bring it up. Let's take a look at the bracket, of course, with that victory. As said, H2K will advance to the semifinals. That means we will be seeing them in Stockholm, in Swedland, as I probably call them. Oh, America. Anyway, we have there H2K beating out Giants Gaming to be up against Origin in that semifinal. And as said, a very interesting matchup. You brought up some very, very valid points. Defisho, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, for the matchup itself, Origin has managed to win out the last few games. I think if we get, like, H2K to me, when we have standard lanes, becomes a very different team. Like, they still rely so much on this lane swap and getting that early advantage from it. Again, maybe also because Giants were misplaying the lane swaps. But I think Origin will look at some of these games and they might be able to say, okay, if we pick strong lanes in some situations, that could be one strategy to use. However, I feel like Origin can more than match H2K when it comes to lane swaps. It's going to be a close series. I feel like it always is with H2K. Yeah. Either they're stomping or it's very close in best of fives.
And we mentioned the gold deficits or the gold leads at 20 minutes for H2K, and it is quite a tale of day and night. They don't tend to go even. They either fall behind a small to large margin or they get ahead. More often than not a large margin, at least in recent weeks. But I mean, as a team, H2K, they either swing and hit or they miss heavily. And I don't think Giants were able to punish many of the mistakes that H2K may have made. Origin will.
Yeah, and looking at individual players, Ryu obviously stepped up. He's a player that so far, if the trend continues, steps up in playoffs. But his adversary in that matchup, Xpeke, is notorious for leaning back a little bit in the regular season, perhaps not, you know, going all too hard, but then leading up to Worlds and in playoffs, he becomes that beast, that monster. I've personally written him off one time where I'm like, yeah, Xpeke may not be the mid laner he's used to be, and then he performed at Worlds fantastically, so that's going to be an interesting matchup. Xpeke against Rio, and I don't think it will be segmented in the mid lane only, even though Xpeke has this, you know, kind of lane-only style. I'll let my team win for ourselves, you know, earlier in the split. I can see that just exploding to different parts of the map as well.
They're both old dogs. These are both boys who've been around a long, long time and they're learning new tricks.
Interpret that as you will.
I was going to say that
he's not that old. He's old. I'm old.
You're ancient.
You're old. Certainly not time to put him out for pasture yet, because I mean, all you got to do is look at Xpeke this split. He's been perhaps quieter than a couple of the other mid laners that we've seen, like a Forbidden, but certainly his stats are still as good as they have been just for a very long time. So I think if we are seeing Xpeke sitting back, what's he going to show us now in playoffs? If he's being about, within the top 3 mid laners right now, what else can he give us from that mid lane? That's an interesting question.
Maybe one more thing about that matchup before we move on is, well, when we looked at this matchup, we were pretty vocal about the bottom lane matchup and how H2k would definitely outclass the Giants bottom lane, even though it came down to lane swaps a lot of the times. But that is one fantastic matchup.
Yeah, the problem with that matchup that I have is that Mythy came out in this split and they're like, lanes, they don't matter anymore. Just get through them, just start roaming, so play the map. And it's kind of sad because Season 3, Mythy was such a fantastic laner. He was like, he would dodge every skill shot forward. He would not care at all. Like, try to lane against him and you hook, and he will just sidestep, dodge forward, and hit you in the face. It's like, now I'm this close to you. And he wrecked us so many times. And he kind of like has forgone that style because that opens you up to potential ganks. And right now he's more of a roaming style. But purely 2v2 without junglers, 2v2 per skill, fight me. I really want to see like
this magical world that no one lives.
Yeah, especially not solo queue. But yeah, Mythy and Niels against Yarnan and Kasing could be a really fun matchup too.
Kreplo, you sound enamored between your comments of Kasing and Mythy today. Who do you love more? Who are you going to pick?
I don't know, man. The fan. I'm just a fan here. The fan always wins, so.
Well, I think for this matchup, though, you just mentioned how Mythy doesn't want to play for lane. Kasing is also roaming.
He said that.
He said that. Yeah. He said, of course. I mean, you always want to win the lane. I mean, you never want to surrender it. Mythy, though, and Kasing are both 2 supports who are very, very good at roaming with the junglers. So we're going to get this fight where it might not be in the bottom lane 2v2. It might just be the junglers and support versus each other around the map. That can simply involve the mid lane.
Yeah, then they have to push. They have to push to get there
push
first.
in the mid lane as well. And then we get these 3v3 fights maybe. Then we get TPs coming down.
I feel like we're going so micro. Like we may as well just do the match introduction at this point. But I think one thing...
It's going to be a good best out of 5.
Yeah.
One thing that is screamingly obvious that we've not touched on, at least since the Costa days, is just the championship points side of things. Because now, at least with Giants going out, they do walk away with 20 championship points. We know that of the 6 teams here, whoever doesn't qualify either through winning summer splits or through championship points is in the regional qualifier. We've got the bracket filled out. Giants will play 6th. It is the lowest seed, since even if Roccat wins or loses, they own the head-to-head, which means they get side choice. And DeFisher, this is what you were talking about. First round, you have to play. If you win, you go to the semis. If you win, you have to go to the finals. Giants need a miracle to make it all the way through, because the way they played today, I don't think they can beat any of the other teams that will fill out the rest of this bracket.
No, and also coming into the playoffs, Giants lost to Rocket, they lost to Unicorns of Love, they lost to all these teams who made it into playoffs. So they look like the weaker team. They got the lowest seed, just got 3-0 by H2k, so it's not looking great. However, I mean, we have seen upsets before in like regionals. We saw Najin last year in Korea go all the way from there. But I believe they were 5th seed. They beat the KT Bulls who were under them. And then they went up and made it to Worlds and lost to Alliance, so go Europe.
The glass,
that's what we take away from that.
The glass is always half full with DeFiscio. Always.
Gotta say, it's possible.
I do not think it's possible because...
No, but by pure definition, it is possible.
It is possible.
It is just not like...
You're technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. But I just think there were too many mistakes from a shot calling level, from an individual level. I mean, some of the picks and bans weren't bad, and you can debate them to high, hell, but at the end of the day, it worked for Giants. What didn't work is how they played them in game. And I don't think you can fix that in 2 weeks when everybody else is playing against stronger opponents, playing for more at the moment.
There is a key factor, though, with the championship points that's come from this matchup that isn't on the Giant side. H2k, booking their spot in the semis, now have gained an additional 20 points from moving on. That's the 20 points they need to clear the Unicorns of Love. In the event of a tie, the summer split team that gained the more points will take the tiebreaker. So H2k have put the pressure back on the Unicorns of Love to not only win, but stay ahead of them. And so game on for tomorrow.
It's also important. I care a lot about championship points, but DeFiscio feels quite strongly that Rocket are looking a lot better. I don't know who's going to have the edge in that one, but if Rocket are playing better and they win, that's it. I mean, H2K could be the next team that auto-qualifies because of the lack of championship points from some of the other teams in the semifinal.
Before we delve into that potential matchup, though, I just want to highlight, we're talking like, oh, Giants, they're not looking that great. They're not doing that bad. We have to remember where we started the season.
Yeah.
Like, coming into it, I was Giants, they're out. 10th place.
We all were.
They're gone.
Yeah.
And they made it to a fantastic run. They barely, didn't get into playoffs, but the first half of the split was impressive, and they've shown some growth and progression. And I think overall they can be happy with their season.
Sure.
And if you would have asked the Giants at the start of the split, do you want to have a potential run through the regional qualifier to maybe make it to Worlds? It'll be Hail Mary, but you can't. I think all of them would have signed yes.
Any team would have signed yes.
No.
There was 1 week there where they were like, yeah, it's true. One week there they were like, we're gonna make it to Worlds, but I completely agree with you that it's something to be proud of on the side of Giants for that one. And it's all about the race to Worlds. And as said, we've been tracking the teams that would make it to Worlds and already have. Also in the international wildcard, we've known that Dark Passage. Oh my gosh. Dark Passage beat out Besiktas 3-1 in the Turkish regional finals. That means that they go into the pool of the international wildcard teams that could make it into Worlds. Of course, Detonation Focus Me is already in there, as well as the Chiefs. So that'll be a very cool race as well.
We'll be looking forward to it. We've still got playoffs going on over in Brazil with CBLOL. We've also got the Latin American finals ramping up. They're not quite ready to decide who's going to the international wildcard, but certainly a lot of teams are on their way to Worlds already.
And if there's any region that needs to be paying attention to international wildcard, it's Europe. Because kaboom can happen again.
Too soon.
Yeah.
We're a year later.
We need 10 years.
We're a year
At
later.
least.
But I'm very interested to see just how the international wildcard teams have progressed, because it's another full year of professional circuits, another full year of growth. And this is something that you keep seeing more and more leagues, more exposure, more consistent high-level play, even in a smaller region, does result in better play. So I'm actually very excited to see what the IWC teams can do on the world stage.
Definitely go watch Brazil. Some very, very interesting teams. The final again is going to be, the winner of the final is going to be the favorite, in my opinion, going into the international wildcard as well. That is a region that is getting better and better and better. And I think it's very exciting also to see how the teams are boot camping in like EU and in NA this time around.
EU.
Not in EU this time, but NA. And I think it's exciting to watch, other regions grow as well.
And if it's not for the teams, just go watch it for the fans. They have some crazy fans in Brazil. It's the support that they have for such a... Okay, I wouldn't call it inferior in terms of gameplay. Yeah, they're weaker teams right now. They're progressing, but they're weaker. But there's such a massive fan base behind it already. As that grows and bigger, and the production value of these stages also goes up, it becomes quite the party in there.
It's like you, Crepo. Inferior player, but big fan.
Oh!
Well, they have some superstars.
I'll give you some branding tips eventually.
Well, they have some superstars over there. Maybe you should tattoo your arm, Crepo.
Huh?
Maybe you should put something on your forearm, Thresh or something.
A Thresh? I was actually thinking about a League of Legends inspired tattoo. So any suggestions on Twitter?
And where he should put the tattoo.
Where and when? Yeah.
But talking about superstars and returning to today's series, there was a fantastic superstar in this one, putting the team in their backpack to carry H2k to the semifinals with 3 dominant showings on 3 different champions in 3 games. Obviously, our series MVP is H2k's Ryu, fantastic performance, and then that Karthus in that last one, who has always been incredibly consistent and does deliver to step up in the playoffs.
I mean, this is a player that, again, Spring Split, regular season, we didn't really see too much from him. Then playoff, he showed up, had a fantastic performance. Summer Split, he's been good all around, but he's not been standout. He was now in this series here. And Rio, again, experience, we mentioned it with Peke as well. Like, these guys, they know when to show up, when to really try hard. And if you can keep playing like this, then we know to have another threat from the mid lane, which is important because normally it's been Yarnan and Odo Amnes like the 2 carries.
And obviously it's very hard for us to decide on MVP. A lot of people that are watching right now will be like, what? You made Ryu MVP when Kasing did so well? And if we make Kasing MVP, they're like, what? Ryu did so well? So I just want to give an honorable mention to Kasing. His KDA in the series was 47. So the casual 47 KDA, because he has 5 kills, 1 death, and 42 assists. And that's on 2 games of Alistar where he was constantly going in. It's not like Kasing was sitting on the outskirts just healing his team up. No, he was constantly diving in, unbreakable, walking out a couple of times. Yarnan had a solid clutch heal to keep him alive, but overall, fantastic performance.
Was the only death that like 4-man tower dive?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it has to be.
Like the only death, the only way you can kill Kasing is if you throw your entire team at him and then lose them in the process.
No more fantasy points though. Sad times. That
only for me. I lost it anyway.
Oh,
Mark Merrill was cheating.
Oh.
All accusation.
Moving on.
Performance review, anyone?
That was our very first quarterfinal. Of course, there will be plenty more playoffs coming your way tomorrow because the Unicorns of Love are going to take on Roccat in our second quarterfinal matchup. and we'll be here with our pre-game coverage at 5 p.m. Central European Time. That is 8 a.m. Pacific. And immediately following the action here in Berlin, we'll skip across the pond to sunny LA, where Gravity will take on Team Solo Mid for a seat in the NA/LCS semifinals. Yeah, let's look ahead a little bit without blowing everything that we have prepared for tomorrow. Rocket versus the Unicorns of Love. As said, the championship point star with H2k versus UL is becoming incredibly important. And, well, you have the faith in Rocket.
So, I mean, I've had it before, then they disappointed me, then I got it back, then I got disappointed again. But the last few weeks, they've been looking better and better. I think especially Nuke Dog in the mid lane is stepping up big time. And if he can perform, if he can shut down Power of Evil, Unicorns of Love has shown so many times they rely on Power of Evil to have a good game, to really work. Also, new jungler and Horror coming in. I think if Nuke Dog has a good performance, Rocket is going to take it.
I want him to win just to have the Horror versus Holo.
Yeah.
Just to have that. That's it. That's all I want.
Yeah, obviously we prepared this matchup all week, and we have
Thanks, Trevor.
That's a quality.
I'm contributing. Yes, I'm contributing.
But it's because we don't want to give all the way the points, right? Tomorrow is the pre-game on the match. But yeah, TLDR is it'll be a closer match. These are seeds 4 and 5 in playoffs coming in, so definitely closer. And honestly, the last few weeks, different results from the different teams as well. Unicorns actually went 4 and 2, I believe. Rocket went 2 and 4, but even then, Rocket did look better because Rocket have been beating teams that are above them.
Yeah, we will see super interesting matchup. An interesting matchup we've had today. We learned a lot, even though it was not the closest. And remember, as we wrap up here, of course, over in North America, their pre-game coverage for their first quarterfinal between Team Dignitas and Team Impulse will kick off right after this. So don't go anywhere. And until next time, we need to recover a little bit from all that hype, especially here on the desk.
And those burns.
And those burns.
I love you, Crab.
I love you too, buddy.
On behalf of myself and everyone here at the European LCS, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Can I get one?
Yeah.
It's time for the quarterfinals in the European LCS. Third seed H2k taking on Giants. Get interrupted, but the Monsoon's channeling. The explosive charge. Flash bomb from Kasing. He needs one more. He gets one more.
Do you want to kill him? Coming.
Oh, I landed for you, though. Use my lantern. Okay, good. I have Q1.
You can go ham. And no one dies, okay?
H2k did not give up a single death. H2k looking to make it 2-0. He's going to be blocking the damage. Lulens will find the kill onto Audrey. This might be game already. Kasig staying alive. Yonin is not going to get the kill, and he will stay alive a few seconds longer before the shield comes in. Yonin gets out. That is before Lulex joins. On the hunt comes out from that's a 3-man pulverize. Once again, Kasing sets up H2k, and H2k are 1 game away from a semi-final matchup with Origin. This could be a clean sweep, 3-0. Werlim has teleported in. Here comes Pepinero as well. The Requiem is being channeled, and it won't be enough for a kill. Werlim is trying to put the pillar down. Wow, he's jumped in, and he's taken so much damage. He's dead before Ryu can get killed, and Ryu stays alive. H2k will be sending Giants to the regional qualifier, and will be advancing to face Origin in the semi-finals.